What up, guys and girls? It is Bobby.
And Sean. Bobby, that shirt looks great, by the way.
I don't know. You can barely see it, but welcome to this week's episode of the Cronus Cast. We are back in business. Apologize for the delay last weekend. I was working again, so we were not able to record. But as always, this week's episode is brought to you guys by Paragon Recovery. Use the code Cronus for 15% off. And if you're military or first responder, hit them up directly for an additional discount. As always, Paragon Recovery, highly recommend their supplements. Their Flame Off, which is their anti-inflammatory supplement, and their Night Gains, which is their sleep supplement, have been great for me. Highly recommend both of them. Really have improved my sleep and overall well-being, especially when I'm in the hospital and working like 80, 90 hours a week.
Dude, the night gains is no joke. Like, I only dream on that stuff. I feel like it's like, did you ever take Iron Dream from like the Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like I feel like I got discontinued in like 2015, 2016 on my last deployment.
Yeah.
This is like the exact same sensation where it's just like I am sleeping so well.
Yeah. I always get like some wicked, like vivid dreams on it. I never can
Yeah.
remember them.
It's great though. I mean, I was like, oh, I guess dreaming is just for children, but not any longer. It's for 31-year-old men.
Work out a lot.
Yeah, that's great.
But how's everything going with school?
So, for those of you that didn't know, if you are going to school, you don't get BAH in the summer unless you are taking at least 6 credits. I think is the minimum. It might be different for programs that you're in, but I had to take at least 6 credits so that I can continue getting BAH. My internship was pushed about a month and a half. So instead of just kind of sitting around and doing nothing, I signed up for 2 classes through my law school, finished those programs up this last week. The internship's been going for a couple of weeks. So I'm very happy that you are no longer happening at the same time. There's a lot of night programs out there that a lot of law schools offer. I don't know how people do it. I was like burned out after a couple weeks of what these people do for 4 years straight, because it is just, if you're working all day, there's no opportunity for you to read the text during the day because of your, the job that you're in. And then the weekends are just strictly reading. My head hurt, man. I was exhausted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one thing that I've definitely been trying to do better with medicine is that I try to read for an hour, hour and a half every day. But by the end of the week, I'm like reading something, but it's just not sticking. It's just like I'm just reading the words and it's not sticking in my head, which is not a great feeling to have.
Yeah, it's I found that there's more for me in like supplements than sometimes the textbook, and the like all of the law books typically have some sort of a supplement that you can go through and purchase where they have like exercises, and that's probably the best way that I learn, because you'll read like a really dry textbook
Mm-hmm.
and then you go and you do some like application with a writing sample or a prompt, and it's like, okay, now this is how I'm learning. I wish I'd kind of figured that out like first semester,
Yeah.
instead of just kind of reading and being like, we'll see what's on the test.
Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed definitely with surgery is that at West Point we learn through what's called the Thayer method, where you're supposed to read the text before you go to class. So that
Mm-hmm.
way you're, ready to talk about class and they can learn more effectively in class. So we have lectures every morning during the week. So I will read the corresponding like textbook chapter for the lecture in the morning, so that in the morning I actually know what's going on. And I feel like I learn way better that way.
That's a good way to do it. I would do that with the previous class. So before I would show up, instead of reading what was for like that class, I would do that like the night before. Heading into the class, I'd review the notes and do some readings from the previous, because there was often a lot of overlap where the
Sure.
professor wanted to bring
Yeah.
up. And so like law school loves just quoting cases and being like, do you remember in this case? And you're like, dude, I'm in 4 other classes and we've read like a combined 250 cases this semester. No, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't believe though that they were having you guys read text, because you would wake up and do PT, you had formations and like mandatory chow hours. Your classes probably started at like 8:39. When did they think you were going to squeeze in reading some heavy core like text?
Wait, what are you talking? What PT?
West Point.
Oh, pretty much the night before when you're like studying. It's
Okay.
like I'm talking about med school or medicine right now. But yeah,
Hmm.
the night before, like when you do your homework, because you have like from like 4 until like I guess like 11 or that night to study, so you have time to like read and study. Well, you have hours
Yeah.
throughout the day too to like read, but like not everybody does that. That was just what I did at West Point to prepare myself for classes. I like was very organized in terms of how to read the chapter or read the readings, then take notes and like outline it so that I would show up and be ready to go in class.
Are you one of those guys that's because I've seen, I mean, we've been friends for years now, but I don't think I've ever seen you post about like, today was my reporting day. Like 8 years ago, I showed up on the, steps of West Point. Like, but do you ever get that itch? Like, because I mean, I feel like I'm seeing all this news that cadets are showing up, at academies around the country and going through like, was it I Week or
Yeah, our day.
R Day?
I don't really get the itch too much. I mean, like it's funny to reminisce about that and to think because I do remember like all those memories from back then, but it's just like nobody cares. Who cares? And it's like I don't necessarily need the social media jerk off session of like me saying, "Oh, look at me, I went to West Point. Oh, look at me, I did this." It's just kind of like a self, you know, jerking off or I don't know the term. What is it like
Hanker,
self what?
armor. Oh,
What?
I thought we were talking branches that do it all the time.
No, like self congratulatory post, and it's just like doesn't really. I don't really need that,
Yeah, that's
but
a
I
good point.
do
I mean, it
enjoy.
looks awful in masks though. Like,
Yeah, it's just very interesting how they're still going through it. I mean, good on whoever is planning that because I would not want to be the you know captain or major that's planning all this summer training because that's like West Point's like biggest, most high visibility and like the summertime's like the most moving parts and like very intricate planning processes. So I'm just very glad that, or kudos to whoever's playing that because that is not an enviable position to be in.
I watched. I feel like the Air Force does more videos than any branch, um, and the Air Force Academy like every year releases like what the first week looks like,
Mm-hmm.
and because so close living in Colorado Springs for a number of years, like the campus is beautiful and elevation sucks. Like that's the one thing that if I don't think the fitness there is very challenging when you look at these videos and what these 18-year-olds are being forced to do. But when you're up at 6,500 feet, 7,000 feet, like that would burn your lungs day one if you've never been there. But
Mm-hmm.
they've got these berets on. They're all wearing different kinds of like aviator sunglasses. Just like I don't know, like one, when did the Air Force really start getting into wearing berets? Like, and two, why? Like, why do you need to wear a beret? Like, it's so goofy. Like, I don't know. I feel like uniforms in general are getting like really goofy. But if you have time, go watch the Air Force videos because it's pretty funny to hear them try to like Air Force. You're like, all right, like cool man.
Yeah, I think it's all relative though. I mean, my sister went to the Air Force Academy, and I'm sure that they had some relatively hard experiences back then. So I don't know. It is what it is. Every branch is a little bit different, and every branch has their own like isms. I guess.
Oh yeah. Speaking of branch specific stuff with the military, we got questions about like going and trying to get fitness in and nutrition in the field and going to JRTC. What were your big experiences, while you were in it at both training centers and then going to the field with balancing that?
So I will say that I somehow went pretty much my entire Army career with never going to the field besides CTC, besides NTC twice. So the only two times
Unbelievable.
I've ever been in the field was at NTC twice.
You're essentially
Uh,
National Guard. Hey, how dare
yeah,
you?
no, legitimately, I've never slept outside my own bed in garrison, except at training centers.
Wow, dude, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, at Lewis, like we didn't go to the field because our brigade was deactivating, so I didn't have to go to the field. And then at 375, you don't really go to the field; you just train. And then we only did the NTC twice, which I don't really call that as, I guess that's kind of field, but like it was like pretty high op tempo exercises for us at
Yeah,
NTC. So it wasn't like I didn't really have time to train at NTC besides like when we are in, I guess, the Ruba or whatever the fuck it's called. I would go to the gym like every day when we were at the Ruba, and then when we were in the and out operating, I was just working, and then I would eat pretty much when I was hungry, and then just eat what I had.
yeah. Did you ever? Oh my God, it's hard because like when you went to the field, did you ever pack food? What was eating then like for you guys at Third Bet when you would go to your training events?
So we would have pretty much hot A's twice a day with MREs for lunch. So it was
Hmm.
actually like pretty legitimate, like legit food. I mean, the food, the hot A's are just like the boiled in bag type food. So it wasn't great food, but we always had a lot of food regardless of where we went. I know some guys, like a lot of the NCOs, would bring like stuff to eat because they refused to eat like the hot A's and stuff and MREs. So they would bring like tuna, like tortillas, like a jet boil, and
Yep.
some of them bring like the dehydrated like mountain whatever it is, dehydrated food to make on their own. Which I
Yeah.
think is a pretty valid strategy. Is bringing like tortillas and tuna, so you get carbs and protein, and some like nuts, and then like beef jerky, and then like some dehydrated foods. I think are very valid or very good nutritional support while you're at these training centers or in the field.
No, that's great. And then like I remember too, we'd have pretty good food around MLAT. Like that food was always pretty good and pretty filling. But again, that was always, you're not gone that long, and it's usually
Now you just
right
eat
there
and
that you're
yeah.
eat, jump, and you go home. Say I've been to the field a lot. Fort Hood loves going to the field. Armor loves going to the field. I mean, like it's really weird. Whenever we had field training coming up, like the Charlie and Delta companies at 1/8 Cav when I was there were tank companies, and they all loved it. Like you would see coolers and like essentially barbecues getting set up at these, platoon alphas where they're cooking all sorts of meat. Like I guess there's a decent amount of room on a tank. Fortunately, I never had to get to a Bradley, but I think Bradleys probably have some of that too, judging by the lack of fitness that goes on. I guess you could say in those formations. But whenever we went to the field, I always just brought a ton of quinoa, a ton of tuna. The jet boil really saves the day, and then I would try to get some sort of like a sauce. Someone asked like a question, like I had these dried pesto balls
Oh,
that you would
nice.
just like
Drop in.
drop into. Yeah, it was phenomenal. And then I'd add a little water. The only thing that I would say with the jet boil is like it's very easy to burn the quinoa or the rice that you bring onto the bottom of it. And so cleaning that thing out after every single meal is very challenging. And like I would bring like some oil sometimes to see if that would make it any easier. But the problem is it's so hot and you want to eat that stuff within a couple minutes. I never really brought a lot of protein bars just because it's like I mean they're so sugary to begin with. I use like I'll just have like one of the fat cakes that they're bringing out with the hot A's, or just have whatever for dessert in the MRE. But yeah, essentially like quinoa, tuna. I'm trying to think. Oh, I love sardines
Oh
and
yeah,
anchovies.
yeah,
So you can get like a really great can of, like either hot mustard, whatever flavor you want of like sardines. And people think it's gross. Sure, whatever. Like it seems a little slimy, but like that with some crackers is phenomenal.
oh yeah.
Like great snack.
I love sardines. They sell them at Costco, so I'll buy them every so often and have them as like snacks throughout the day or something. Like some sardines with like some bread or some tortillas.
Yeah,
Delicious and
that's
great
phenomenal.
protein. Great
Oh,
macros. Like it's all protein and it's all usually in olive oil, so it's like good healthy fats too.
Yeah, and if you have a jet boil, like I would take the oil from that and then mix that in with like a rice, and really just use everything. Because otherwise, too, you got to think about the trash that you're leaving behind. Um, if you got to put that stuff back in your ruck, you don't want that leaking. If you're at a tack or a talk, you've got to pack that stuff up and take your trash with you. So it's just something to also be mindful. You don't want all that oil like leaking all over the place. Not to mention it smells bad because it's fish. So those are just things to be, cognizant of. What did you do for fitness?
Uh, so I didn't really do fitness in the field just because I never was in the field long enough to do fitness. But at NTC, the Rubas, I went to the gym like every day that we were in the Ruba and work out. But when we were like in the field at NTC, like there was not time to like get some training in, really.
I don't think I feel like the ranger field training exercises or just the ranger training in general, like there was none of that wasted around time of,
No.
okay, like it'll be 2 or 3 days before you just like, no, you got there, you did what you needed to do and you left. And so there wasn't like well, we should do fitness in this downtime. The regular army, though, that was like, we're going to send you there a week early. You're going to stay there a week and a half after, you're out of the box. I've been to JRTC twice, both times worked out like all the time essentially when I could get after it. But I was a brigade planner and I brought, let's see, two 70-pound dumbbells, a 60-pound kettlebell, and 90-pound dumbbells from our brigade gym.
Hmm.
Because fortunately, the brigade headquarters company, the commander was, a buddy and was like, yeah, just go to the gym and sign out what you want. And so like I was doing a ton of working out in our tent at the talk the entire time we were at JRTC, to the extent that I would also change out of my uniform. And like, even if we were in like the field in the box, it's like, if we get attacked, we get attacked. I'm not sitting around and wasting all this time. I'm just going to do my wad. And I would just work out for 30 or 40 minutes. Like that's the only reason I think I didn't like lose it where at JRTC.
Yeah, I would say like when we were at NTC, like we were in the box. We were only in the box for like a week, but it was like, you know, we would wake up or like we was reverse cycling. We're reverse cycle anyway, so we wake up at like afternoon time, we get a mission, start planning for the mission, doing like a pre-mission stuff. Nighttime would hit, we'd go hit a target, come back, get either followed on and come back to the top, back to the camp, and just go back to sleep. So it was like there wasn't really. I don't remember having any downtime to really work out. It was just like constantly, hitting targets, come back and resting.
Yeah, like we did that for. We didn't go to a training center before we went to Afghanistan, but we did something similar. Where it was like, I mean, we had two missions a night. We had like some incredibly long movements, and it was like, the live fires were incorporated into that. And so within like 4 to 6 days, like you were just getting run all over the place, and it was just constant mission planning. I thought that was like the best training that I'd ever done. In
Oh
fact,
yeah,
the live fire that we did there is what I based the company live fire design for our brigade off of, because I was just so impressed by like how much the battalion and the regiment had put towards creating like a really awesome training experience with all of the breaching requirements, that a company and the platoon and the squads were expected to perform, the different fires that were going to be incorporated. I mean, it was the most like incredible thing that like for training that I'd ever been a part of.
yeah. The NTC rotations, while it did suck that we were at NTC, it actually wasn't too bad because like we flew there and like chartered planes, stayed in the Aruba for like a couple of days to just get set up, and then we went and did our job. We were only there for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then the second time we went, I remember that was when it was a battalion TF. We took the entire battalion to NTC that one year. The second time we went, because our company was like proof of concept for the battalion.
Yeah.
Then after that, the next year, we took the entire battalion and TFT to NTC, and that was legit. I just remember the missions that we ran that TFT were really good missions, and then like we had that long walk mission that was the first time where I ever like started hallucinating. I was so fucking tired. I didn't think I would ever like, get to that point, but I was like mentally like I think it was just so I didn't eat enough or whatever, what have you. It was like the second night of being up for I guess it was like 30 hours at that point, and just not being cognizant and like was not mentally with it. It was really bizarre. I've never been like that song before.
Our like long walk started with a essentially just like a foot march. Um, and I just remember like because I think the MPs or something had to be out at the same time while we were on like this part of the training area, and so we're just walking for what seems like hours, and everyone's got their nods on, and you just see this like blinking light that's in front of you with this vehicle. We're like, and we're calling up like, for the love of God, like just tell them to turn the lights off. Like it's bad enough that we're just walking right now, but it's even worse that everyone in our nods is like going to be blinded by the time we're finished this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, that it's like a different kind of fitness that and I think we try to make our program reflect that kind of environment, because you can't just be good at lifting. Like there, all the stuff that we have with kit in the varying programs that we've got, it all just it's focused on when you get in those situations, like you just want to know that every part of your body's ready to go.
Yeah, I don't know. I just remember that long walk and just being at the end of that long walk. That was like probably one of the most difficult things that I've ever done physically because it was just like it wasn't physically it wasn't super hard because you were just walking kid for like I don't know like 20 miles or something like that over hitting three different sites. But it was also just the fact that like you weren't sleeping. We only ate once pretty much. And it was just like almost like it was almost like ranger school mission.
Yeah.
It was just like to the nth degree. Because it was just like mission just kept hitting like it was like a Florida night where you just hit a target, you walk, you hit another target, you walk, hit another target.
What I think that was really impressive about the Rangers when you go to those kind of events is like having gone to Ranger school, and you're just walking, and then eventually you get to an objective and you go through the motions on the objective where everyone knows, okay, I'm just gonna like violence of action, but by the time you get to maybe that second one, the energy's just not there. Everything goes according to plan, but it's just there's like that wow factor that's missing. Like
Mm-hmm.
every single objective that you go to with the Rangers, like something gets turned on, and there's never like that was like a lackadaisical mission. It was like, no, like this, like every single person is just like ramped up,
Mm-hmm.
ready to go, mentally focused. I think that's like a huge difference between like you can be fit enough to go and pass a school, but like there's that barrier that once you break through your fitness level where your mental acuity is not lessened by fatigue, like it's just like another realm.
Yeah, I think it's like that. I don't know what it is. Maybe like pushing or just having the, I don't know, motivation like push through when you're like exhausted. Because I do remember we lost like a bunch of dudes fell out in the last movement, and that was like I think demoralizing to a lot of people because it was just like one of those like walk until we tell you to stop walking type missions.
Yeah.
And definitely lost some guys there, but it was mostly guys that didn't have their tabs at the same time. Like a lot of privates fell out.
Oh, the very back end of our movement, it sucked because we kept hearing buses, and that was the worst part. Was like no no guy in our company was like, oh my god, like I can't do this walk. It was just like, this is so annoying. I'm so just either tell us we're just gonna go and we're just gonna pick the fucking pace up, and I'm just gonna crush this event, and I don't care like who's in front of me, I'm winning. But like it was like one of those, the pace is just not fast enough, but it's not so slow that like it's that weird like, listen, I'm either gonna run this or I'm gonna like walk this, but like there has to be a happy medium. And then we
Right.
kept hearing buses over and over again. Like I feel like they had the buses constantly drive by the road just to be like, let's see how they respond. And like after the third time, people were like, I swear to God, if I see that bus, I'm gonna flip it the fuck over. Like I don't care right now. Just shut up.
Yeah, I'd say like our last mission, we were in February at NTC, so it was cold as fuck. And then like I think there was some issue with like because we had 22s flying for us, and then there was like some issue with the 22s, and they were like late. So we had to sit on top of the mountainside for like 3 hours waiting for the 22s to come pick us up, and I was like, this is the coldest I've ever been in my life.
I've yeah, I don't know anything about cold. Like my deployment was in, I guess it was summer, but yeah, like it was hot. Uh, Savannah is incredibly hot. Like I just missed out on the cold stuff. All right, you know what? My first experience though with the Rangers was at JRTC was when I was a platoon leader there at First Cav. The like I don't what do they call the evaluators at JRTC or not
OCs.
Geronimo? Yeah, the OCs. They were like mad because they're like the guy that was supposed to be like the head bad dude was supposed to be here for about 4 to 5 days, like causing chaos. And within 3 hours of him getting here, the Rangers had already conducted a
Oh
raid,
yeah.
and it was like, that's awesome. I remember like hearing that, like I was like, that's incredible. Like that's a you got to be so pissed when you're Geronimo and you're like, no, we're gonna tune up the Rangers, and the Rangers like get out of here, like you're done. See ya.
I do remember that when we were first company, when the NTC, we were integrated. I think it was First Cav, or I don't remember who we were integrated with, but it was like our company was attached to whatever brigade it was, and we did something similar where we just like kind of swept house pretty much every night. And they had to start making up targets for us to hit, so they wouldn't hit like their like the OC or whatever the counter the op for
Yeah,
HBIs.
yeah, that's great. I mean, it's if you can't tell by the way we're talking, like we had such a great time there, and it's just such an awesome organization. We get a lot of questions too, like, "Hey, I'm thinking of signing a contract to join the military. Should I go Air Force PJ? Should I go Army Ranger? Should I try out for MARSOC? Should I sign an 18 X-ray contract?" Um, and like, while obviously we would love to just be like, hey, just go Ranger. Like if you're that motivated where you want to go and join the special operations units out there, like join the one that we love the most. But I think a lot of it comes down to like, what do you want out of your service in the community? Like Green Berets have a significantly different mission set than the Army Rangers. PJs and JTACs are utilized throughout the entire Army, not just alone to the SOF world. And then the Rangers have their own special organization. So it's like, what do you want when you're enlisting? What do you want as an officer when you have to go back and forth or potentially just stay there forever in the Green Beret community? So I would just preface it with that. Bobby, what would you recommend to somebody who's trying to make that hard choice of where they should end up in their military career?
Honestly, it's like I think it's kind of a dumb question to ask because I think a lot of people they try to I don't know, like overthink it or try to overanalyze it, but at the end of the day, it's just like just make up your mind and go for one thing. It's just like just because you decide to go one thing doesn't mean you're guaranteed success either way. And I think a lot of the time people are just trying to like war game which one's going to be better and then like tell themselves that I could do this or I could do that because and it's just almost like don't just talk about it, just be about it. It's like you
Yeah.
can game plan all day and you can like talk with as many people as you want, but at the end of the day what counts is only when you sign your name on the dotted line and then actually go and do it.
Do you think people pick like what selection they're going to go to based off what they perceive as easier? Do you think that might be a question? They're like the secret underlining question, like, is this easy? Like, which one is the better route? Like, can I get in quicker?
Yeah, I think that's definitely plays in some people's thought processes because I think it's just like people. I think nowadays, especially with how social media is, with like soft and all these, not just meme accounts, but like all these like the counterculture like kind of Instagram accounts that have like the cool guy videos with like sync with like the trap music or what have you.
Yeah.
I think people have become like enamored with that like end goal or end product that they just want to be like, oh, I want to be this guy that gets like the cool gear, that
Yep.
gets to wear the ops core, that gets the cool weapons, that gets to do all this like cool guy stuff, but they get like it kind of enamored by that and then don't really think about that you're looking at like the end product that you have to like put in the time and like the effort to make it that point. So I think I don't know. I just find it like that social media and like maybe kind of how things are and like how easy it is to find information about these selections. That guys are just like, kind of, I don't know, like just don't really fully grasp the situation and end up talking themselves out of doing it or something.
Yeah, I would agree on that. I don't think any one of the selections is easy. Like
No.
they wouldn't make it like easy if people just found out like, oh, you're going to get a sweet beret out of this. Sign up for this one instead of this one because in 6 months you're still going to be wearing an ops core like you mentioned. Um, I
Because
would
like
say
if it
too.
was easy, everybody would do it. But
Yeah.
obviously, like soft isn't easy because not everybody does it. And then there are high rates of failures across the board. It doesn't matter what soft you go into. Like no soft is going to have like 100% pass rate. It's just
No, and
not.
I think that's why like a lot of the soft meme accounts just absolutely shit on the 82nd because that's like the place where everyone like if the army spends money on a conventional unit instead of spending millions of dollars on tanks, it's like, well, we're going to spend millions of dollars. It's a lot cheaper to buy a bunch of people in ops corps than give a new tank to a company with like them rolling out the new Abrams. So like the 82nd always seems to have like the cool guy stuff, and I feel like people are like totally fine wearing that now and then associating themselves with like a history that the 82nd established in World War II, and then at like the beginning when deployments were like way more often than they are now. And it's like the 82nd's like that's not soft, and just because like people are jumping doesn't make you soft. Like just because you're attached to an installation that has SFAS and has CAG like does not make you soft. Being an attachment to those organizations does not make you soft. Um, so I think that's also like one of the things. Is like, dude, if you just want to wear the uniform, go to the 82nd. Like, but like if you want to do this stuff, like the uniform is not the reason why people sign up to go to Rangers, to GBs, or any other organization.
Yeah, and I think it's like people like or the 80 second gets shit on a lot by like the meme accounts, but at the end of the day, I do think that as far as conventional army goes, 82nd is probably one of the best conventional units that you can go to besides like 173rd.
Yeah, I would even I mean like yeah. So all truth like to the front here. I think if you can go to any conventional unit, like the units that I tried to go to after I was at Hood, um, I tried to go to 82nd, the 509th, 173rd. Um, I had orders to 82nd and then switched to Carson because of the dual military thing. Uh, but like, yeah, without a doubt, like you can talk trash all you want on the 82nd, but like people go there for a reason. And that's because like a lot of the officers that are in Ranger Regiment are just like essentially permanently rotating between Ranger Regiment and the 82nd or the 509th or 173rd, and then just going back and forth because it's like it's airborne. Why? Who wouldn't want to jump out of a plane?
Mm-hmm.
Typically the most fit. I think it just comes down to the deployments now that we're looking at. It's like I maybe it's now even less of the fact that the units get to wear cool guy stuff and more like they're giving out CIBs for trash, uh, in Afghanistan instead of what you had to get what was required to get a CIB back in 2007, 2008.
Yeah.
That maybe that has more to play with people wanting to talk on the 82nd issues.
Yeah, I mean it's all like relative too, because it's just like nobody these days is really deploying. And even like the 80 seconds, like the only unit that still deploys, like 82nd, 101st, and they're just doing like the OIR type stuff where they're just rolling around MRAPs and not really doing anything kinetic. But that's kind of the state of the military right now. The only people that are doing kinetic operations is going to be soft.
Yeah.
But
So
it's
here's
not
a
like
question:
yeah,
like
it's like
you're in the regular army. I mean, even even soft, like it's not sending full battalions, whether that's in Ranger Regiment or, in the land of the Green Berets. It's like, like companies now, or, even teams are just going and being sent places. If you were in the regular army, would you rather stay at garrison and train, or would you rather do like a turkey rotation, or would, getting sent to Korea for 6 or 9 months? Like, how do you view those rotations? 'Cause I don't call them deployments. I
No.
refuse to, but
Yeah, I mean they're call them what they are. They're training deployments. So like when I was in 375, we did our company went to Korea for a training deployment during the DFC cycle. So I had a little bit of the flavor of getting that training deployment, and I actually enjoyed that training deployment a lot. Like it felt like almost a deployment because we were training so hard. Like because our commander had like the mindset like we're here, we're gonna take advantage of everything we have and train as hard as we can while we're here. And we train hard as fuck. And that was like probably one of the most stressful times of my life as a company FSO, because not only was I doing like fire stuff for my guys, like setting up training for them, I was planning and facilitating training for the entire company. So like we did like a force on force mod, we did company platoon live fire mod. That I pretty much was planning all of it, all the backside stuff for it. So it was like extremely challenging. But it was like probably one of the better training rotations that I've ever experienced in the army because we were just hitting it so hard every day.
dude, I'll be honest, I was jealous when we were talking, to some degree, because it just sounded like a prolonged TFT, but like with multiple opportunities to really just like get those reps in and get like better and better and better at every single one of the facets that, a Ranger platoon was going to handle. Because the deployments, like, you don't know how many targets you're going to get while you're there, what those targets are going to look like. Um, how often, if there's like, any civcas in the country and they're, trying to stand you down, or, there's any issues between the Afghan government and US forces, and how that plays. So it's like, you a lot of times don't, like, while you're in Afghanistan, it's great to go out on missions, but there's not this consistency where, like, I got to do, like, you got to fill in all the white space on deployment to keep your guys like mentally sharp, with all of the areas that you have there at BAF and CAF. And it's like, I felt that was really challenging. So when I got to see like what you guys are doing in Korea, I was like, that is cool. Like the amount you guys got to jump. So I think what we're saying is like, you can get some really cool training deployments
Yeah.
out there.
And I would say, yeah, and that's kind of like what the point I was trying to drive at is that, they're just it is a deployment, but I wouldn't call it like a combat deployment. It is what it is. It's a training deployment, and it's an opportunity for you as a leader to really dial it in with your guys and really work on some pretty legit training that you won't get stateside. You have to really take advantage of the opportunities that you are given. Obviously, like we would much rather, I mean, just speaking across the board, like I'm sure we would all rather deploy to a combat deployment and do like operations and missions. But like or not, the vast majority, probably like 90% of people don't even do combat anymore. 99, probably 95% of people that deploy don't see combat anymore, and you're sitting on them, and that's just the nature
Oh,
of the beast.
dude, it, I've just been like super fortunate with the way that my stuff is always lined up for my deployments. Um, when I was in first Cav, I speak very proudly of this. My company was good. Um, Two of the three PLs in our company went to regiment, which I think like we're the only guys in our brigade that even went that year. Um, we crushed everyone while we were at JRTC. Like we took out multiple targets, and because of that, they lined our company up essentially as one of the only like maneuver companies on our deployment, and they separated us from our task force and put us under was it three? Which one is 2CR in Germany, or is that 3CR?
Uh, 2 CRs Germany, yeah.
So they put us underneath 2CR at Fa Passab, and so we were going and doing patrols and missions like daily, and it was like an awesome deployment. And then when I got to regiment, I got to go to Afghanistan as a battle captain. I got to go back as a PL, like super fortunate. So I never had like the opportunity to do the Korea thing. But like you see guys going to Korea, you see them go to Germany, and it's just like that's the best training. Like if you're in a good unit too, I think that makes a world of difference. Because if you're in a shit unit and you go to those places, like they're just gonna like have like restrictions on what you can do when you're in your downtime. But if like your unit's good, they don't have to do that. They're not going to have to like prevent you from going out and getting a drink or going to eat with your platoon because they're like, no, these guys just crushed, that training event at Grafenbeer. I don't have to worry about my guys because I see how good they are in the field. Like they're going to be fine and mature adults. Yeah, but I kind of wanted to do a rotation to Korea after you talked about your experiences because it was like that. Like if you're in the army, you want to get better. Like I think that's probably the best place to go at this point because it's uninterrupted training.
Yeah, I mean, like I think some of the Europe ones are pretty good too. I think some of the Eastern Europe ones have pretty good training events too for like the Met guys. But I feel like Korea was I don't. That's probably one of the more formative experiences in my military, especially in Ranger Battalion. That's like I think where I became like where I fully like felt like I knew what I was doing. I felt competent enough in my job and really understood that like, hey, like actually like got it now because of that deployment. Because it was just like I was able to actually get good at planning operations, being able to actually understand the maneuver, being able to like do like all the duties expected of FSO and like exceed some of the duties and like doing like going beyond my scope, I guess.
I would say too, one of the things that the Army, and I don't know if they're even looking at it at this point because we're still almost 20 years into Afghanistan. But after every single war, when we start ramping down and like trying to plan garrison events, because we stop training with the Air Force individuals and doing joint fires. Whenever we go back to like the next war, we always have a ton of fratricide issues. I wish that like the Air Force, the Army, the Marines had way more joint training and not like just at these like divisional levels. I mean, like, send a company from, 4ID or, the 25th, and you're going to attach them to an aircraft carrier with a company of Marines. And then they're going to go practice landing operations, somewhere in, the South Pacific. Like those kind of events would make guys want to stay in the Army because it wouldn't be just the same, we're at Schofield Barracks, we're just going to walk on this red clay out to this range and come right back and fight a fake enemy. Like you're constantly doing real stuff at the next war when we have to do a beach landing. Guys have seen. We're going to keep incorporating now the 35 into air to ground combat. Like that's the kind of stuff that would like motivate me to stay in, and I think is completely necessary.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. But I think the Army is already kind of moving towards that way with the pathways, the different pathways that they have.
Well, what pathways are you? So you're talking about the relationships between like Paycom and
Yeah, yeah.
okay,
Like
yeah. I mean,
Second ID does Pacific Pathways, where they send like brigades or battalions out to like Thailand and all like Southeast Asian countries and do like joint train with them.
yeah,
You
but
have like,
I mean like more American joint training.
oh,
Like we need to send you know a tank battalion from First Armor, and they're going to be attached to some infantry unit for the Marines out of Pendleton,
mhm.
and they're gonna play like the defense on some beach that the Marines are going to hit, and then we're going to have some sort of Army aviation element that comes in. Um, like that's the kind of big training event that I think we should be focusing on instead of doing the exact same thing. Because I tell you what, when we switched from the like counterterrorism to a near peer threat at JRTC, the biggest thing that I saw, and even from like individuals that had deployed, was a fear to pull the trigger. Like
Uh-huh.
guys were so fearful when it was like, no, that it's near peer. Like CivCast, consider it, but it's nowhere near as prohibitive for you to to drop, some sort of ammunition on that building now to take out a company of Op 4. Like, whereas before it was like, well, you want to know what the CDE is? It's like, well, no, this is like you're going up against another world superpower. Like, this is you just need to level it. And that was the one thing I don't think we're going to be prepared to do if we go to engage, because people are constantly asking for approval authorities. Like, no, you are the approval authority. You are the ground force commander, like platoon leader, company commander. You want to fire your mortars, you fire your mortars. Just like,
Hmm.
yep, no aircraft, good to go, launch it.
Yeah, I think that's a definitely a interesting discussion to have about kind of the future of warfare and where we're going to go with, kind of over like with war, I guess. And it's kind of interesting if you think about like China and Russia, how they are kind of expanding their militaries, especially these times. I think China, I saw something about how China has put out 6 new aircraft carriers out to sea this last couple of years.
Jeez.
Russia's doing something similar with like built like 6 new aircraft carriers as well. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens in the next couple of decades.
This is going to sound like really like Teddy Roosevelt isolationism, but I let them. Like, I feel like we did this with Russia already when they were the Soviet Union, and it was the space race that broke their back. Like, China has a much bigger economy. They own a ton of our debt. Like, I I don't think they're going to be like, knock on wood, like Japan going and just like, setting up the empire of the rising sun. Um, if they want to extend influence, like, I think a lot of it has to do with, a financial incentive for them. And you look at the One Road project, and they're just building militaries to support that. I don't know why we keep on like increasing this tension between the two countries, where we have to spend so much of our GDP on, military, preparedness. Like, I just don't see China jumping into the West Coast in the next 20 years for an all-out land war between Asia and North America. It, I feel like it's like nonsensical to even like be kind of fearful of that. What do you think? I mean, you live on the West Coast, so.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily the idea of an overt war, but I do think that there are foreign influences in our daily lives that we don't really understand or recognize. For example, kind of the protests going on. I think a lot of the protests are maybe seeded or influenced by like Russia and China as a way to weaken America domestically, which therefore would weaken America's military and then international, affairs.
Yeah,
I think
but we're doing the exact same thing.
it's
Like,
not really the same though.
I mean, you look at like the Arab Spring. Like, you definitely
Sure, sure,
know
sure, sure.
America
But
had a hand in it. The U.S. Taiwan Chinese relationship, Hong Kong. Like, you don't think we're helping out the protesters in Hong Kong?
probably not to the same extent that like, because I mean, the big thing is like what is that going to do for, you know, China? It doesn't really, I don't think that Hong Kong necessarily weakens China's position because they're going to take Hong Kong regardless, and they already
Oh, I
have
just think it's
taken.
an image thing that they can't. For them, like, again, we talked about before how the Chinese are much better than the Americans at playing for the long game and being like, okay, it might happen in my life, it may or may not happen in my lifetime, but it's going to happen in like someone's lifetime that is a generation or two removed from me. I'm good with that. I'm going to do my part now. But I think what they're so angered by is Hong Kong is like this small little like speck of dirt compared to like mainland China, and the fact that it's causing them so many issues. The fear is like, okay, well, is there going to be another city that all of a sudden is going to cause this much issue? Like, in the fact that we have not been able to quell it for years now, I think it's a public image nightmare for how strong the Chinese party wants to look. But I think that happens to be like the bigger issue with Hong Kong, not so much like what it really means to to Chinese government.
Sure, yeah. I mean, like, I know America is influencing foreign affairs in multiple routes, but at the same time, I think people aren't, or maybe not cognizant of the fact that we do the same thing, uh, or that the same thing is being done to us by foreign like agents. Because like what was it? They closed the Chinese embassy in Texas.
Houston,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah, in Houston a couple of days ago because of some undue influence, and that I think I read something that they like were burning documents like a day before that or after
Oh yeah,
that.
there's videos of that from like above the consulate. I mean, and that had to do a lot with I think intellectual property
Sure.
rights.
Yeah.
So like absolutely, but it's just I don't know. I felt like one of the reasons America was way more beloved, you know, following World War II was because it was like it didn't get involved in international politics unless someone came and punched us in the nose, or someone came and like slapped our mother. Like that was the reason why we would get into foreign conflict. And I get it with Afghanistan, and you want to. I think making the claim for Iraq is rather weak at this point, but like where we're involved so much more around the world and how we've used the AUMF to continue our presence throughout Africa, throughout the Middle East. It's just like when is it going to stop? Like America needs to just shrink its influence and just go back to doing what it had done for you know the years prior to World War II.
Hmm.
In World War One, when it was like we're not at this like state of terror with every single country around the world. People didn't hate us.
No. Yeah, I would definitely agree with how we needed to, kind of limit our influence and military influence overseas. And as much as I kind of hesitate to commend Trump for it, but I do agree with Trump's kind of international policy of like taking us out of the Middle East, kind of reducing our military's deployments, taking people out of like finally taking people out of the Middle East and focusing our efforts to strengthening us domestically versus keep like putting all these resources out overseas to these allies that who at the end of the day might not care about us or really care about improving
And
America.
that's the thing. We only had troops stationed in like Central Europe because of the fear of like Soviet expansionism and the fall to gap. Like when my parents were stationed there, that was the whole thing that they were preparing for. Was we had like I think 3 divisions at one point in like Germany, um, and so like now we're down to I mean, it's something like it's like a fraction of that, maybe a brigade
Hmm.
minus. Um, but like that's a like get out of Europe. And if like we no longer have U.S. troops that are stationed in say Germany, and we just have like the 173rd, Vincenza, that's fine because maybe it'll like inspire like what Trump wanted the relative percentage of GDP spent on military will actually be spent then by those very well developed economies of
Hmm.
Germany, of Sweden, France. Like, listen, if you really think Russia's a threat, build your stuff. Like, we're
Yeah.
not gonna just keep sitting on your land.
Right.
Um, but I don't think that's ever going to happen. It's just like one of those like that's a legitimate talking point, and I think people will just like, well, no, we've always done this. We've always done it this way. We're always going to have troops there. It's like we're just going to have like these pockets of police essentially all over the world.
Yeah, and then I mean, obviously, I'm not like a international relationships or like like global strategist, but I do think that America has plenty of problems domestically that could
Yeah,
probably face or probably use more resources rather than spending billions and trillions of dollars into defense that the national defense and the military budget that doesn't really translate to anything to benefit America.
I mean, like think of how many I think how many trillion dollars have we spent in Iraq and Afghanistan? It's something
It's like seven
like
trillion.
astronomical. Yeah, that's unreal. Like absolutely unreal.
Yeah, and it's just like what has benefited America from these wars besides the defense contractors? Sure, there's been a lot of economic benefit to them, but where has it benefited us? geopolitically, internationally, defense wise. Like I don't, I'm pretty sure we're that not that much safer by being in Afghanistan for the last 20 years and waging war on some terrorist organizations.
And I think Americans were so concerned that our experience in Afghanistan would turn into what Afghanistan was for the Russians. But I don't know, like I feel like it's turning into that, not from the perspective of like, the soldiers that we've lost there, but it's turning into that from the what it's doing to, the economy, um, from a second and third order effect. Like we're just spending a ton of money. I mean, like everyone's now concerned with COVID and with education for children, and where are we going to get money, and if we like if kids have to stay home, how are we going to fund that, because now parents are looking to go back to work and they're not going to be able to go back to work, so they're just going to be like, so where would that money come from? It's like, why isn't like the country so happy to spend dollars on something like that? Like, okay, if your parent has to stay home because they can't get employment, or they have employment but they have to like stay home to babysit you while you're at public school online, like why are we so hesitant to finance that? But then we're like, you know what, we need 10 new Navy ships that just got built. Again, I'm not up at the White House. I'm not at the Pentagon, so I have no idea what the state of the Chinese or the Russian navies are. But the last time, like, I talked to someone from the Navy, it didn't sound like we were getting our ass kicked in any single like race when it comes to ships or technology on the water. So like billions of dollars right there that could easily probably fund a lot of the issues that we have here, internal to the United States.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of the military industrial complex too, and that people, kind of are hesitant to blame it on that. But I think that goes a long way. Like money talks, and there are a lot of lobbyists and politicians who are paid very well or are funded pretty well by the military contractors. And they talk about jobs too. Talk about like Northrop Grumman, talk about Boeing, talk about like all these other large corporations which employ a lot of people in certain areas. There's definitely something to be said about that too. And,
yeah, the Raytheons out there, the
yeah.
Harrises. I mean,
And I shouldn't really talk bad about it because I own a lot of defense stock. That's done very well for me for the last like 10 years. But it is an interesting affair, the military industrial complex, and that I don't think that gets enough attention from people, because I think it's like become the new status quo, and that's just what Americans do, is spending money
well, I think
on.
people don't want to address it because it like somehow if you question what we're spending, for soldiers on equipment that's not going to, be there within 10 to 15 years anyway. So it's not even like it's benefiting the guys on the ground that you're thinking of. Like that's somehow unpatriotic, and that like you must hate America because you don't want us to have like the newest of the new weapons. Like, yeah, I mean the M4 has not really been updated. Barrels changed a bit for attachments, but I mean, the AK's been around for years. That shit gets buried in the mud. Someone finds it 5 years later. It's going to work and shoot and do just as much damage to somebody. So maybe like less time on the tech thing and just more time on just trying to make the soldiers better by having like a better educational background that they come from, the 10 years prior before they even get in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. Um, what else did we want to talk about?
The scholarship.
Oh, yes.
So last year, we were very fortunate to be able to hand out 3 scholarships to some incredible soldiers that had transitioned and were getting some awesome degrees and training. This year, we're doing the same thing for 3 individuals. This year's scholarship will have open because of COVID through, let's say, September 5th. So you got a little over a month to get some of the information put together, but we're going to give out 3 $1,000 scholarships for the next year. And if you're going to, an undergrad program, a graduate program, if you're going for some sort of like an advanced training certificate, whether you want to be a welder, like if you're making the transition from being a soldier to a civilian and looking at, that next level of education, what we want to do is be able to provide you a small like thank you, from us, for what you've done, and help you get over the hump, whether it's like getting your new suit, paying for books, some things that won't get covered by the VA. And so get your packets into us in the next about month and a half. The packets include essentially like what you want to do with the education you're pursuing. Send us a picture of you, in your uniform, ORB, ERB, a letter of recommendation. You can all find it on our site, cronusfit.org, the Cronus Scholars page. If you have questions, hit us up. We'd be glad to help you out through the process, and hopefully, get people some funds again, because of the community that you guys have all helped to establish through fitness and our nonprofit work.
Yeah, that's one thing that I'm pretty proud of, that we're able to offer people this scholarship. It might not be much compared to, like, I don't know, like the Tillman Foundation, all these other big ass
Yeah.
scholarships, but any way that we can give back, whether it's that $1,000 or what have you, I think that's it's better than nothing. And then if you are going to a school, getting out of the military, and kind of want or need a little bit of extra to help pay for the bills, feel free to hit us up and apply for the scholarship. The scholarship is pretty much funded by you guys in terms of the program sales that we do, and then from all the apparel and all the other swag that we have going on. My wife Christina has been actually working a lot behind the scenes, doing the swag stuff. We have opened up our study that I'm sitting in right now. This is now our new Cronus Fit distribution center. So we're starting to warehouse stuff here and sell and ship it ourselves to kind of pass along some savings to you guys, just because the previous model we had with this company, Printful, it was pretty much just printed to order. The margins were terrible. That's why we didn't charge you guys so much more for apparel and swag, because it costs us so much more to pay for it because it was by the order. But now we're able to have stuff on inventory and warehouse, so we're able to pass along a lot of those savings to you guys, so that not as much of your money is going to paying for some shitty third-party company that we're using, but more so, more has come to us, so we're able to give it back to you guys.
Yeah, increasing the scholarships, and then the monthly charity drives that we've got going on. But like, again, I feel like we thank you guys every couple months, because it really is awesome for us to be able to do this. You guys have recommended some like incredible nonprofits over the last couple months that we've been able to link up with and help out. And so keep doing that. If you guys have like a dedicated nonprofit that you're interested in, hit us up. We'll, like, literally any money that we try to make, we try to just turn right around, outside of the operating costs of the website, and then just getting the stock on hand. One thing to note too with the scholarship funds, we're not sending that to like your school. So like, there shouldn't be a concern like, oh, is this going to just get sent to whatever.edu as part of my tuition check. Like this, again, like Bobby said, it we'll send it straight to you. We'll talk about whether we do like a money order to you, or we send you a physical check, or we do an electronic transfer. Like, it's really simple. And again, that can go towards like literally anything after you've transitioned. So just want to say thank you from on behalf of the Cronus fam, and get you guys going on that next step once you've transitioned.
All right. Any other closing thoughts or announcements, Sean?
Oh yeah, safety. And this isn't like a safety brief. If you're gonna do fitness in the coming months, especially if you're like on the East Coast, or you're living somewhere like super humid, don't be concerned if like you're looking at your run times or some of your times if you're working a lot outdoor and you're finding that it's like significantly more difficult to hit a pace that maybe you had in the spring, or that you hit in cooler weather. When you work out, when it's more humid out, when it's hotter out, like your heart rate's going to spike. Bobby and I were talking before we got on here, like a run that I literally the same run I did 2 weeks ago, faster and with much less effort from a heart rate perspective. I did today and like was absolutely floored by the humidity. My pace was about like 10 to 20 seconds slower per mile on average. I burned more calories. I feel like I look like I jumped out of a pool or into a pool and out of it by the time I was done. And like for a couple hours after the run, I felt absolutely awful. So, like as you're going through whatever program you're on right now, like don't get beside yourself if you go and you have a bad workout or it's just a tough couple months because of the weather. Like that is normal. The cooler weather is going to come, but all the work that you're doing right now by not stopping in the middle of your workout to feel sorry for yourself, like is going to pay off when, the cooler winds hit you, in October, November, and when you're absolutely going to crush everyone.
Yeah, just make sure you're putting the time, even when it's hard and uncomfortable, to keep pushing, keep driving. That's because that's where you're gonna find, the growth that you're looking for.
Absolutely.
Also, real fast shout out, Joe Rogan's podcast, this most recent podcast. He has this neuroscientist on that talks a lot about neuroplasticity. I really enjoyed it. I thought I was able to find a lot of stuff that applied in my life. So if you guys are interested in getting better at learning and getting better at learning new skills, I would definitely recommend checking it out, because I don't really want to summarize it, because it's really well done, and I would really, really recommend this.
Yeah. I listened to that on my bike ride yesterday. It was awesome.
Yeah, very applicable to not just like, for me, it was like doing surgery. Like I noticed that like I have been kind of doing the same strategies to get better at doing surgery. But like listening to him talk and explain it actually like makes more sense. And like what it's going to change how I approach doing things too. So I recommend to you guys, if you guys are still listening, to check out that episode.
Yeah. After you listen to ours and leave a 5-star review or a 1-star
Yeah.
review, doesn't hurt us.
Actually, let me see if we have any reviews. I don't think I haven't checked in a while, because we haven't been recording very often. Nope, last one's still from Florida Recycle. No new reviews. All right, guys, I think we'll wrap it with that. You guys have a good week. I think I'm actually working again this weekend. This next weekend, we pretty much do like a weekend on, weekend off type of rotation, and it's usually like a Friday 24, Friday, Sunday 12, or it's Saturday 24. So it's like my weekends get fucking wrecked when I'm working on weekends.
Oh, well, maybe next weekend I'll do like a law focused, just talk about the administrative state and the Food and Drug Administration. I think that'll be really interesting for people.
Yeah, very engrossing. But I think I'm working next week. I haven't even looked at my schedule yet.
We'll just bring it in when you're doing surgery, like clipping some guy's nuts. Just be like, hey, how did I do today? Like, do you want to say anything to the Cronus fam?
Oh, start recording.
Yeah, mid
Doing that.
surgery.
Yeah, mid surgery.
Like, oh
All right.
my
Well,
God, I dropped my scalpel. It's inside of his belly.
I have a funny story, but I dropped a needle one day, and my attending almost lost his shit.
Doctor.
Yeah, there was just quick. I guess we're not gonna wrap it up, but there is in our program there are three. I call them the three wise men, because these are all like three white-haired guys have been doing surgery since like the 70s. They're all like 70, 80 years old. They're all in the 70s, I want to say. They were all army surgeons that like started their surgery residencies here like 1960s and 70s. So they're all old as hell, but they're probably like actually the most experienced surgeons ever. Anyways, one guy is very the way he teaches in surgeries is very rough, I will say. It's like very tough love, where he's like, I want you to do this, don't do it any other way. I want you to do my way, don't do anything else. And if you mess up, he like loses his shit. Like he curses and like will snatch like instruments out of your hands. So it's like very like old school way of like doing surgery. But anyways, at one point, like we have something called pop off needles, where pretty much they're on a suture and you like throw your needle, and then I didn't realize it was pop off, so he went to go pop off the needle, and then when he pulled the suture, it popped off the needle, but also popped off the needle from my needle driver, which dropped the needle somewhere, and he like lost his mind, and I was like, I don't know I don't know what you want me to do. Like I didn't realize you were gonna pop it off.
Fucked up.
Yeah, so I got my shit pushed in for 2 back-to-back surgeries, so that was very fun with him. But I learned a
It's
lot.
like being back at regiment.
It's even worse being back at regiment because this is an officer in regiment. Like no one fucks you down that hard, but like I haven't been fucked down like that in a long time.
Oh, you're kidding me. At third bat? No way. The angry bat does not do. Yeah, get out of here.
I never got fucked down too bad by NCOs. It was always like more disappointed fuck downs than anything else. It wasn't like shouting at you type fuck downs. But it was
Well,
fun.
hopefully this doesn't happen the next weekend when you're live in the studio with a belly wide open in front of you.
Yeah, so we'll see. Thoroughly enjoying doing surgery. It's definitely very humbling trying to learn a new skill and learning all this stuff at once. So it's very humbling and definitely enjoying it.
That's dope, man.
All right, we'll end it with that. You guys have a good week. We will catch you guys whenever I have free time now.
Surgery. Push for surgery. Just bomb the comment section. Surgery it.
Later.
Bye.